Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight, and welcome to our Summer 2022 School of the Museum of Fine Arts pre-college programs at Tufts. My name is Tara Pope, and I'm the Director of Marketing for Tufts University College. And along with Sarah Biggers and Ashley Wood, Claire Garcia, and Olivia Letourneau, we will be taking you through tonight's programs, and then we will be moving over to our live Q&A session for all of you to ask your questions and tell us what you want to know about the program. So feel free during everyone's introduction to put your questions into the Q&A block or the chat. Either one is fine. We'll keep track of them, and when we get through all of the program overviews, we'll go live and start asking your questions and have Sarah and Ashley and Claire give us the answers. So thanks, and at that, I'm going to turn it over to Claire so we can introduce to you our pre-college team.
Hi everyone, my name is Claire Gracia, and I am a pre-college program administrator. And I do a lot of work with SMFA programs and also help out throughout the application process.
Hey everyone, I'm Olivia Letourneau. I'm the marketing associate for University College. I support Tara and the pre-college team in getting the word out about all of our exciting programs that go on during the summer and the academic year.
Hey, I'm Ashley Wood. I'm the program director along with Sarah of the pre-college fine arts program at SMFA at Tufts. I'm also an alumni of the school.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Biggers. I'm the Associate Director for Continuing Education at the SMFA, and that means that I have the distinct pleasure of managing these two pre-college programs that fall into our art bucket. So really excited to have you here and looking forward to talking more about both programs.
Thanks, everybody. And now I'll take you through tonight's agenda. So as we discussed, we're going to go over the two programs. So first we'll talk through our graphic design boot camp with Sarah Biggers and our details. And then we'll look at our studio art intensive with Ashley Wood. And then as we mentioned, we'll jump into our live Q&A. So let's get started, everybody.
All right, awesome. So we're going to start here with the graphic design boot camp. This is a 1-week fully online graphic design bootcamp, which is the newest addition to the SMFA pre-college portfolio, and it's now entering its second year. So it started as its first year running last summer. This program is designed for all creative types, some examples being those intrigued by digital design, those interested in creative writing, or those interested in just enhancing their communication skills through visuals. And the program will take a unique interdisciplinary approach to graphic design, so it'll include aspects of psychology and language and visual arts, all wrapped into one visual communication tools. The instruction will really focus on translating messages and ideas to digital designs using the tools in the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. And the projects will all have a theme of sort of self-exploration. So that'll be prompting students and participants to reflect on their image of themselves and experiment with the way that they depict themselves in various ways. As students work on their pieces, they'll also get a glimpse into the graphic design field as a career with talks from professional graphic designers and artists alike. Each day in the program will have a mix of technical instruction, time for independent and group work, as well as experiential time, so learning opportunities like roundtables with professionals and artist talks as well. The 1 week will then wrap up on that Friday with a group review, so learning to do some critique of artwork between peers, and then a virtual show, which will allow participants to get feedback from both their peers, their family members, and kind of celebrate their work. And then next up, I wanted to share some of last year's students' work so you can get an idea of what came out of that program. And you'll kind of see here the inaugural group really hit it out of the park with some of their designs. So up here first, on the left-hand side, we have a surrealist dreamscape by a student named Kat, where you can also see their personal logo on the bottom left-hand corner. And so this is another example of just sort of this exploration of self, identity and image, and then also self-branding in the terms of working through creating a logo. So another example on the right-hand side is a personal logo designed by a student named Ava. And then on this next page, we have another example of a dreamscape kind of altered self-portrait, as well as an infographic on the right, which was made in Adobe Illustrator. So That one there on the right does a good job demonstrating both the focus on self-exploration and kind of thinking about who you are, as well as using graphic design as a visual communication tool via an infographic such as that one there. So that's a very quick synopsis of the graphic design program, and I'm happy now to turn it over to Ashley to talk about Studio Art.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. So once again, I'm Ashley Wood, and I'm the program director of the SMFA Studio Art Intensive. We call it an intensive because it is just that, is 3 weeks on campus, living as if you are an art student at SMFA at Tufts. This program is for students, high school students, who are curious about what it would be like to be at art school and who want to build not only their technical skills, but their conceptual skills. They want to network with other young artists that are serious about art making, and they want to think about how they're going to build a portfolio to apply to art school in the coming years. We have instructors that are all closely connected with the SMFA, graduates of the school, and who are artists and make work and have lots of awesome advice to young artists. They really function as mentors. So you will receive projects and instruction and assignments based in some of the foundational materials and disciplines such as drawing and painting, sculpture, digital media and animation, and mixed media. However, one of the kind of unique qualities of this program is that we really work to make the interdisciplinary nature of SMFA at Tufts kind of a major part of this program. So while you might be thinking about a drawing prompt, maybe you're going to bring in some sculptural elements to that. Maybe that you are looking at photography for inspiration for something that you're making. Maybe you end up writing a bunch of poems and turning those into new works of art or animation. So we really want to help you curate your ideas and then help you find whatever medium it is that makes sense with those ideas. Here is a photograph of one of our pre-college students from a few years past working. She was particularly interested in painting, so she spent a lot of time painting. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. And then just some more 2D examples. So a lot of high school students come into the program with a really strong interest in drawing and painting. And we have instructors that want to support you in building those skills and helping you think more about the ideas behind what you're painting or drawing. Go to the next slide. And then we also want to push you to think a little bit more about manipulating material in new ways. So here we have 2 students from a couple of years ago who were altering found objects on the right. This one student went through an entire book and modified it so each page or section of pages kind of became this new sculpture, and she was playing with the words on the page, paint, and she was actually doing some stitching and embroidery of the pages as well. And then on the left, this particular piece is a response to a prompt about sculpture that interacts with the body. And this had a lot to do with identity and obstruction of identity, and is a really beautiful piece. And she actually made some really cool sculptural like masks to go along with it too. And then lastly, you can go to the next slide. Here's some photographs of what it's like to be kind of at the SMFA. We've been online for 2 years, and we're so excited to have students come back into the building and get to see the space that really becomes alive when there's a whole bunch of young artists moving around. You can see that we present the work at the end of the 3 weeks. You get to have an exhibition, and you write an artist statement, and you really think about how all the work you've created works together. There's the bottom right is a really awesome photo of one of our groups and a reel of animations that they made that they all got to look at together at the end. So yeah, I think it's an incredible program. We have some really awesome instructors. We also get to spend time at some institutions around Boston, such as the Museum of Fine Arts, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. You will get to kind of experience what it's like to live on campus. It's lots of fun. And if you are at all interested in being an art school student one day, this is definitely the program for you.
All right, so a little bit about the application process. You can find our application on our website, which is precollege.tufts.edu, or this link, which I will put in the chat after. In that application, you choose your program of interest, and then you complete the application requirements, which are parent permission form, letter of recommendation, transcript, and portfolio, which is required for the studio art program. The application deadline is May 1st, but we accept students on a rolling basis, so it's recommended to get your application in as soon as possible so that you can reserve your spot. Once you submit all of your materials, you'll get your response within 10 business days, so you'll know really quickly if you will be in the program in the summer. For the SMFA program, you will need an art portfolio and a statement of interest, and you have to be in at least 10th grade for both of these programs.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And thanks, Ashley and Sarah, for going through the programs, and Claire for going through the application process. As we start to think about some of our questions, again, feel free to put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, and we will get to them through there. I'm going to ask the questions out loud, and Ashley or Sarah most likely will jump in and answer unless it's something specific to the application. The first thing I see on here is going into 10th grade or completed 10th grade. I guess that's a clarification for the requirements of age. I think it's entering 10th grade, correct?
Rising 10th grade is perfect.
Great. Perfect. So Emily, I hope that is helpful for you. And some other questions that we have coming in are, who are the teaching artists that work with students during SMFA's pre-college?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So all of our teaching artists have a Master's of Fine Arts degrees. They're practicing artists, they live locally, and they all have significant experience working specifically with high school students, and have often taught at the collegiate level. So they kind of know both sides of it. They have a lot of experience working with our admission teams to understand what different art schools are looking for in portfolio applications. So they have a wealth of knowledge around that. But yeah, they are awesome. They work as mentors. They get to know you and to think about your ideas and help you kind of shape your art.
Another question that we get a lot is, there is a sculpture component to the program. If a student hasn't worked with sculpture at all before, is that okay, or do they need prior experience?
Yeah, no experience necessary. People have access to different sorts of materials and classes at their home high schools. So we know that not everyone could be well versed in every single medium, and that's totally fine. What we want you to do is come in with an open mind, to try things, to experiment, to be ready to kind of abandon all your preconceived notions that you're only ever going to work with painting, or you're only ever going to be somebody that does animation, and kind of try everything and yeah, be open to all sorts of different new materials.
Great, thanks so much, Ashley. Another question that has just come in is, what is the social environment like, and what is the supervision during free time versus how much free time versus structured social time is there with this program, or with either of the programs?
Yeah, so I can talk to the kind of on SMFA's campus part of it, and maybe somebody else can talk about what it's like in the residential side of things on Tufts campus. But at SMFA, it's awesome. It's a kind of open setting, so you'll have space that you're working in larger rooms making art. You will rotate through blocks of time where you work with different artists, different teachers, but then there's also an open studio component, and that's often been like my favorite time to be at the SMFA during pre-college. So we've got music playing, there are people talking and sharing ideas and collaborating. Lunch is also a big social component. We do often have things happening during lunch. There's some trips to the local, why can't I think of the name? Blick, the art supply store, to go get materials and or to pop out for lunch. We've often have artist talks during this time, or some people just want to keep working in their studio. The teachers really encourage collaboration, so we definitely have a lot of good kind of cross-pollinated ideas coming out of the program.
And for the social life outside of the program activities during the day, there are a lot of field trips and other activities that you will be doing with the Res Life staff, since you will be living in a dorm and you'll have RAs working with you, and you'll have access to all of the dining halls, and you'll go on trips throughout the week and on the weekends.
And a lot of those events aren't all scheduled yet, but as you go through the program and as you become signed up, you'll get notifications of what those are as they're added to the program for the summer. It's also our first time in 2 years doing any of this on campus, so we're all getting used to that idea again and bringing people onto campus, which will be so much fun for everybody.
I wanted to just add quickly that a nice benefit related to the social aspect is that there's an opportunity most nights and weekends throughout this program to interact with students enrolled in other programs. So Tufts puts on programs in nearly every discipline or major that the school offers. So you know, there will be medical students or pre-medical students, researchers, people taking classes in civic engagement, and so there's really a broad opportunity to really interact with a lot of students taking different programs who are not just in the program during the day. And then lastly, just related to supervision, there's, you know, all sorts of parent permission forms that would be part of the application process. So definitely would direct parents on the call to read into that language and let us know if you have any questions. We do work with a whole residential life vendor who manages a lot of the supervision outside of program hours.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks everyone for those great answers. So we have a couple more questions that just popped in. Is ceramics a medium that students have the opportunity to work with during the studio art intensive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't offer ceramics as in wheel throwing. If you are or anything that has to be fired by a kiln, we don't have that specialized course offering. But however, there are many air dry clays that we do have available that you can get at the SMFA art supply store, at any of the kind of local art supply stores, where you could certainly work with clay as a material if it's like an air dry material. So traditional ceramics, no. Working with clay, definitely.
Ashley, another question that just popped in is, how many students apply and how many are accepted? Do you want to take this one, Ashley, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of applicants, and what I will say is that the most important thing to put in your application is your artist statement and your art portfolio. What we're really looking for is somebody who is dedicated to the idea of art making, and they're willing to spend 3 weeks of their summer kind of doing just that. We want people that take this seriously and really want to learn. So if anything, you might receive you could receive 3 different options upon application. You could have admittance response, or you would receive a conditional acceptance. And usually what that means is we want to see more from you. We want to understand more about, like, okay, well, why do you want to come? What else can you create? Do you kind of poke you a little bit more to think about your reasons for making different things, and see if maybe you didn't think that one piece you created over the summer was interesting, but we might think it is. So think deeply about what you're applying with, what kind of shows your ideas and your range. And then in your artist statement, really tell us what you care about and what you think about.
Thanks so much, Ashley. That's super helpful. Another question that just came in is, who will be teaching the graphic design bootcamp, and will advertising marketing be focused on? Sarah, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, definitely. So the instructor for the graphic design program is a RISD alumni who is a high school graphic design teacher, and who also runs their own freelance business in graphic design work. And so they're awesome. They have kind of both perspectives of teaching, learning graphic design as an art and educational setting, but also, you know, working with clients and understanding that side of the business. So I wouldn't say that there's a marketing and advertising kind of direct focus. The entire program isn't directed at that, but certainly each project that's assigned, you saw the logo making and poster making, all of that could be translated and looked at through an eye of advertising and marketing. And then we also will have, as I had said, some we call them roundtables, professional roundtables, or panelist sessions, where we will invite folks who are working with graphic design in a variety of different fields. So, they might be a creative director, they might be an advertising director, they might be a freelance photographer. So all of these different avenues that someone could go down with graphic design will be represented and spoken about. It's not just the only focus of the program, but it's certainly all woven in.
A question that just came through is, how much spending money do you recommend? And I can answer this one if anyone else wants to jump in. All of your food and activities that are planned will be covered as part of your tuition. So honestly, the spending money will simply be what you would want to do outside of the scheduled time. So I think that would be, really up to you if you plan on eating all your meals within the program. There will be some free time, but I think most of it you will be with your residential advisors and or your teachers. So I don't think there's too much spending money that is really required, unless, like I said, you're coming to the area of Somerville/Boston and there might be some things that you want to purchase. Sarah or Ashley, is that true? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is we do have materials provided as part of the program. Sometimes students get really excited about a material and want to try something, want to buy something new. So there isn't a requirement that you come with a set amount of money to buy materials, but that is something to think about. I don't know if Sarah, if you have any other thoughts on that.
No, I would just definitely echo that, of just kind of having some buffer for that excitement piece, but it's certainly not required. It's not a requirement of the program to have excess funding. The only other thing I could think of is, if a parent signs off on the waiver to kind of explore into Somerville, as Tara said, anything that might be a purchase there for ice cream on the way or something like that, but certainly not a large bucket for excess spending.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Are there any requirements like an interview with the students prior to the course? Claire, do you want to take this one?
So an interview is not required for either of these programs. For both of the programs, you will need to submit the parent permission form, letter recommendation, and a transcript. And then for the studio art program, you will need to submit a portfolio or a couple of pieces of art. And for the graphic design bootcamp, you can submit a portfolio if you would like to, but it is not required.
Thanks so much, Claire. So some other questions that we get a lot is, will Tufts provide access to the Adobe Creative Cloud, or will I need to get my own license?
So the price of an Adobe license is included in the tuition cost for the graphic design bootcamp. So students will have sort of a short-term license access through Tufts for that week, and it usually extends a bit beyond. So students have a time to, experience it more and really dig in after the 1-week program is over. And all enrolled students would get step-by-step directions on how to download that software to their computer. We do always advise, that certain types of technology aren't as great with running Adobe products. So things like tablets sometimes can be a little harder to work in those programs. So always reach out to us if there's any questions or concerns about technology on that end.
Another one for you, Sarah, is I've taken some graphic design classes already at my high school. Is this program still a good fit for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the answer is definitely. The program is open to beginners and doesn't require experience with graphic design. The class will still be open-ended in a way that will allow students to explore their projects at their level of experience. So it's sort of like a prompt is given out, an idea is tossed out there, and students are working on creating their project with the tools that they have access to, while the instructor is kind of talking through working in those tools and what to use and what to click on, really the basics for folks that do need that sort of instruction. But somebody who's at a higher level might be able to work with a teaching assistant to unlock a new tool or really dig into a new idea or theory within their work. So it's certainly kind of open-ended in that sense. It's a little bit of make it your own.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. What percentage of students come with the intention of building a portfolio rather than just exploring creating art?
Yeah, I could talk about that. I think the 3 weeks is meant for you to explore, and you will come out of it with some finished pieces. It's kind of would be impossible to create an entire portfolio in 3 weeks. And we want you to try new things. So it's about kind of, I guess, finding a balance between those things and thinking about how what you create could go into your portfolio. You'll certainly get a lot of feedback from our teaching artists, and you get one-on-one time with members of our admissions team to talk to you about what it even means to build a portfolio. What are you trying to do by sequencing different pieces together? So while you won't kind of come out with like 12 perfect pieces, you will have a lot of information about kind of what maybe you've made in the past that you'd want to include, what from the program makes a lot of sense with your other work, and what you might want to keep thinking about or exploring. But it's not necessarily a come in, we're all going to make 15 pieces just for a portfolio. You'll make some stuff that maybe you'll decide not to include, maybe you will. It's kind of depends on how you take the prompts.
Final questions I see right now is what types of projects will be assigned in this program? And I guess Ashley and Sarah, you could probably both take this, but we'll start with you, Ashley.
Yeah, sure. Really fun ones. So we have our artists, our teachers think about themes and questions and ideas. So maybe you will be, I mentioned this when we were looking at some of the student work, that particular prompt that comes from one of our teachers often explores what it means to create something three-dimensional in relationship to the body. So you can take that in kind of whatever direction you want. They're kind of like offerings of ideas. Oftentimes they're inspired by artists that you'll look at with your class. But what you do with that prompt, that theme, that idea is totally up to you. This is where kind of the cross-discipline nature of it comes in. How could you like weave in painting to this sculpture project? And what is kind of building on the body mean to you? Maybe it's something totally different than a classmate of yours. It's a little bit of an abstract response, but really they're meant to prompt your thinking to be inspired either by, contemporary artists, historical artists, materials, or ideas.
Thanks, Ashley. So for the graphic design side of things, again, the program in its last iteration, it may change a little bit, but the main goal or focus or theme, I guess I would call it, is this idea of self-exploration and discovery through art and visual art. And so projects will urge students really reflect about themselves, explore emotions and feelings, and translate that into graphic works. So an example we saw on the previous projects was designing a logo with initials or something that represents you, designing an altered self-portrait that elevates the way that you view and envision yourself. A big one is some type of infographic is usually created because that really gets into the visual communication piece of graphic design and kind of taking a bunch of information or maybe statistics and stats and charts and putting it into a really digestible, clear communication tool, because that's at the end of the day what a lot of graphic design as advertising or marketing is getting at, being a communication tool, whereas some of the self-portrait type projects are more about this artistic expression and less about an end goal of communication. So that's kind of just an overview of the types of things you might expect to be assigned in the program.
Awesome, thanks. There's one other question that's just come in. I'm not sure, Claire, you might have more info on this, or maybe Sarah too, but are there any certain COVID protocols with roommates, any specific COVID protocols? And I know that we'll be continually updating them as we get closer to the summer, but are there any details that you have, Claire, that you could share now?
Yeah, so as of right now, the plan is for students to be in doubles, so they will have a roommate. Since COVID is always changing, that is subject to change by the summer. And then in general on Tufts campus, masks are required indoors, so I can see that still being true this summer. And I'm not sure if anyone else has some information about this, but in general, a lot of our COVID protocols are changing with the current situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if things will change. I know vaccinations are required, obviously, and there'll be testing. As of now, there's testing on campus, which is, I think, still 1 to 2 times a week for current students. So whatever the decision or the protocols are for Tufts students at the time of the summer program will be the same for the high school students that will be either commuting or residents here. Obviously, if you're virtual, those don't apply, but. All right, well, we still have a bunch of people on. I don't have any other questions right now in the queue. Make this last call if anyone has anything else they want to type in or any other questions they have for us tonight. And feel free to, I mean, obviously, if you didn't get to a question tonight and you get off and you start reading something and you have more questions, you can always email us, call us, visit our website, follow us on any of these ways. And I just actually had a question pop in. How is financial aid run for the summer programs? Claire, is that something you wanted to speak to, or?
Yeah, I can answer that. So when you start the application, you can mark off if you want to be considered for financial aid and submit a financial aid application. And then we're thinking early February, mid-February, we will start giving out the first round of financial aid. So you'll find out how much financial aid you'll have. And since everything's on a rolling basis, we recommend that if you're applying for financial aid, to submit your application as soon as possible.
Great. Thanks so much, Claire. And you can see up here, we are on all the social media channels. We're actually live on Facebook right now with this session, and we will be editing this video, putting it together, and also putting it up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. You can find it there. So if you have anybody that was also coming and couldn't make it, the video of tonight's session will be available. And as always, our program administrators like Claire and her colleagues will be standing by for email or phone calls for any questions that you have. With that, I'd love to thank you all for coming tonight and joining us. It's always great to talk to our potential students and families. And so we hope to see you all on campus for the rest of the summer.